All right, I think our marketing department has already started recording this webinar. So it's exactly 10 o'clock, and as promised, we will be starting at 10. First, I would like to thank you for allowing us to do this presentation today and for giving us an hour of your time today to actually share with us this moment to learn something new about the product that we have in front of you. So, as you may already know, and as you may already have heard about Tekla Structural Designer, for the past 5 years of it in the market, when it started 2016, the Trimble's focus is about the features for vertical structures, meaning for high-rise buildings, enclosed or cladded structures. But just recently, due to the demand in the market, Tekla has released new features for TSD that will cover the need for industrial applications, and that's what we're going to talk about this morning. We definitely will cannot show you all the features of Tekla Structural Designer, but we just picked out those that stand out for the industrial segment. So we have entitled this presentation Tekla Structural Designer for Industrial Applications. And basically, we want to share with you guys new features for one automated column base plate design. We'll cover that. We know that that's a challenge right now in the industry wherein it takes you some more time in designing the column base plate for your projects. So we've covered that. Steel fireproofing consideration in analysis and design was also a part of the 2021 release. So we will cover that in this presentation. And 3D equipment loading, as you may have read in your email. So we will be showing you how Tekla Structural Designer compensates for the actual shapes and geometry of the loads that you will be putting up on your structure. So we will also talk about open structure wind loading, which is a new feature for the software. And then lastly, we will cover automated rebar design through detailing with a combination of the integration with Tekla structures. So basically, those will be the what we want to cover in this 45 minutes presentation. And in case you'll have a question on the course of this webinar, we would like you to type in your questions on the message box to your right. So you just simply put whatever question you wish to ask regarding the presentation, and we'll do our best to cover all those questions afterwards. So, Tin? So, for a brief introduction of my team, our team from the engineering and construction segment. So, I'm Christopher Rosaria. I'm the business development officer, and basically, our segment is the engineering and construction, where it's comprised of four basic solutions from Trimble. So, by trade, I'm an industrial engineer with 11 years of software solutions consulting experience, and with me are husband and wife, Christine Tungol and Jerome Tungol. Both are civil engineers who's been in the company for 7 years now. And they are separated by the softwares that they carry for the engineering segment. Christine handles the engineering, the analysis and design solutions, while Jerome handles the construction part of our business, which is the Tekla structures. So we'll be joined by Christine and Jerome, especially during the whole course of the presentation and the Q&A afterwards. But basically, Christine will be doing most of the part of the presentation, since our presentation is focused on analysis and design for industrial application. Before we jump into the actual presentation, allow me also to introduce to you Vibrant Technology Solutions Incorporated. That's our company. And this is the image you're seeing on your right is actually the building that we have in Quezon City. We're located in Camyas. And in the Philippines, if you talk about Tekla, if you're interested about anything, Trimble with all the softwares for Tekla solutions, we are the only Trimble Buildings partner and reseller in the Philippines. So in case you might have requirements for the solutions that we're going to show you, there's only one company to contact, and we've been operating in the business for 26 years now. So we have an office in Manila and Bulacan. So the company basically operates with around or less than 100 employees, and we're divided into two groups. So the sales group, which forms part of our group, we do the solution selling or the subscription of the licenses for Tekla. And then there's another group that accepts actual detailing projects from the US and Australia. But we also cover some projects in the Philippines. So if you want to outsource some of your detailing works to basically steel detailing works to VTS, then probably we could accommodate that as well. So these are the logos of the companies who allowed us to put it in our presentation for reference. These are the companies who's been working with us using our Tekla solutions in most of their projects, and they have where we hope that we've become part of their success in delivering uh, various structures in our nation today. So the latest addition to our clientele is the city government of Makati, which we just closed last January, and the DCCD Engineering Corporation that we just closed this month. So they're excited to use our solution in those projects. So before I turn over to Tin, with her slides, we wanted to give you or to refresh your imagination on the challenges that engineers like us encounter every day as we go to the office. So probably we could start from there, and then we present a solution that solves some of those issues that we have. So allow me to turn over the presentation to Christine Tungal, my colleague, Dean, for the presentation. Go ahead.
Thank, thank you, Sir Chris, for the introduction. So I'm Christine, the pre-sales and technical support for engineering construction segment in Tekla Structural Designer and Tekla TEDS. So before we proceed to our webinar presentation, let me show you the responsibilities of an engineer in the office. So engineering offices are always facing a daunting challenge in producing the final design result. They are always dealing with multiple projects which may give attention to detail issues. And also, engineer needs to understand the problem, whether the type of design is new, retrofit, replace or upgrade, with each individual option leading to own issues and problems. So also we consider which materials to design and construct with and what type of construction methodology to adopt. And also, we consider our design if it's a code compliant, and always considering the commercial implications. And this problem is also considering the susceptibles to change. And this change is repeating the same design calculation over and over with major or minor changes. And we are also dealing how to communicate efficiently the design intentions with our higher management, and always being wary of further analysis and design implication, but always having never enough time and always under pressures. So these are the pressures and tasks engineering offices face on a daily basis, and over time seems to have developed personal methods to overcome these issues. So that's why Tekla Structural Designer is here to help you. The Tekla Structural Designer is a revolutionary software for analysis and design of multi-material buildings. So why multi-material building is because you can create this type of structures using TSD. You can combine materials without exporting the model to other software. So from foundation up to the superstructure, you can design in TSD based on our code. So all the models that you have seen now was coming from our clients, which are very generous to share with us their projects using TSD. So in TSD, there are international design codes that are already available inside. As you can see, Philippines is already included inside Tekla Structural Designer. You don't need to pay extra money for you to get the other codes like other softwares. So these are the agendas for today. So this enhancement inside will be very useful, especially with the industrial structures as well as the contractors. So first, let me discuss to you the base plate. So base plate is available for Eurocode and US code as the moment. So base plate are automatically added on creation of a steel column just like support. Regardless of the foundation type, base plates are automatically added to the bottom of new steel columns if a support is required or applied. A base plate will not automatically be added when the column is supported by other members, slabs, and walls. There are two situations to consider. First is no base plate connection exists where user can use the add base plate option in the design ribbon. So you can use by selecting the individual column or window over the whole model to add at all valid positions. So next is the base plate connections already exist where user has run update connections previously or the user is able to automatically size a base plate by turning on auto size in the properties windows. So multiple base plates can be selected at once just like other objects type by control plus select and then by using the structure tree or by windowing over the graphics. So base plate can now be found in the structure tree under members. So they will be grouped by the section size of the associated column. You will see they are now independent of connections. This is a change from the previous versions as they were grouped under connections. So for the tooltip, baseplate tooltip will show the associated column section and grade, baseplate dimensions and grade, status and utilization, and all connection types will have associated member as per size and grade. So in the same content, baseplate can be found under the connections and under members. So as you can see, there is an option for box which is for outline of baseplate and details is for bolts and rods and anchor plates. So geometry is for baseplate. So for plate sizes, sizes are selectable for base plates and anchor plate. Width and thickness are taken from the plate dimensions in the section database. So for rod database is also been added where user can add new, copy existing, view, delete, set and view default. For well database has been also added where user can add new leg length, remove leg length, set and view default. So for US well database also included electrodes where user can add new, view, delete existing, set and view default. For column section and grade, it can auto size, it can be activated and deactivated. So base plate length with thickness can be calculated based on the column section size when auto size is on. For grade and preferred for direct contact in bearing, user can activate and deactivate the option. So for bolt and grade and size can be defined in the database. So bolt length, projection above plate, friction coefficient, horizontal shear transfer can manually input the value in the space provided. So for bolt layouts, there are three types that you can use. First is the symmetrical four bolts. So this is the example one. And then this one is for the symmetrical bolts. And lastly is for the asymmetrical bolts. But take note, asymmetrical bolts is only available on the Eurocode only. So for welds, there are hollow section, only one weld will be defined. So for the profile, the type is only fillet, and the leg length and full profile is present. So for I section, three welds will be defined. For flange A and flange C, the type can be fillet or butt. The leg length and the full profile is also present. So for the web, the available type is only fillet and the leg length is present and the profile can be full or partial. So for concrete base, the length, width, and depth can be taken from the concrete foundation if one exists or defaults to default foundation dimensions, and user-defined if no concrete base exists in the model. So for concrete, user can be taken from the concrete foundation if one exists or default to default the concrete grade. And then there is also a grout space and geometric enhancement parameter. So for geometric enhancement parameter, it can be calculated from the base plate and concrete base dimensions. For automatic sizing, it can be done via property windows. So base plates can be automatically sized based on the geometry of the associated column. So we expect users will leave the auto size option on until the columns are designed. So they can turn off automatic sizing and edit the base plates as required. So base plate can be edited using the properties window and the edit dialog box. So multiple base plates can be selected at once and their properties edited in the properties window simultaneously. Property sets can be created and applied to base plates just like other objects in Tekla Structural Designer. User can select multiple base plates at once and apply a property set using the properties window. Base plate property sets can be reviewed in the property set show alter state. So for the move, copy, delete operations, so base plates can be moved, copy, delete with the associated column. So by simply selecting the column to move, copy, delete, the base plate as default will be selected too. User can choose to only move, copy, delete the column by deselecting the base plate from the usual dialog box. Okay. So base plates has also added two general arrangement drawings. So it includes the base plate and bolts and rod details. So as you can see, column scaling option is applied twice for the good quality of drawing. But take note that the anchor plates applicable to Eurocode only. Associated layers has been added which are on default on 2021 setting sets, and layer styles and configurations can be adjusted as required. So same with the general arrangement drawing, the associated layers is also added for non-concrete column drawing. So base plate had been added in elevation at the bottom of each column view and in plan, which is times for the scale for orderly, clearly show bolt layouts. So drawing will include base plate, bolts or rods, grouts, welds, and anchor plates. So same with um, the plate base plate drawings, the associated is also added for the base plate. So a dedicated base plate member drawing are shown in elevation and plan where applicable. Base plate, bolts or rods, grouts, welds, anchor plates, and concrete base. So these are the sample base plate drawing for US code. So for base plate member report, it contained the base plate drawing, the design summary, and the calculation. So for the base plate model report, it contained the base plate member report and the design summary. So for the material listing, it contained the base plates, the bolts, and the anchor plates. But the anchor plates, take note that it's only for available only for Eurocode. So the status and utilization ratio can be viewed and will automatically open after check all base plate is carried out. Base plate are included in the new review view filtering feature, and the property sets can be reviewed and applied using show alter state. So these are the benefits that you will have using the base plate enhancement in Tekla Structural Designer. So this is a good start for you. Next is the brand new feature in the industrial development. So this feature can be used on any type of structure or model. So the equipment load. So a new option has been added to Tekla Structural Designer in the modeling of equipment and loading objects. So in TSD, equipment loads are 3D objects used to model as sphere, vertical cylinders, horizontal cylinders, and cuboids. So provides a dedicated way to define any arbitrary arrangement of support points relating to an equipment object. Support points relating to an equipment objects are visualized by display of loading area defined by the boundary of the points. So equipment loads can be defined as a total values which will be decomposed the support points or as a specific support point loads. So for modeling, you just simply select the equipment icon from the model tab. So in the wall and the loading objects group. So you can define like a slab on beams just by clicking equipment support point used to define it. Note that each support point is location where the equipment loads are applied to the structures. The size, the base position, the angle of the equipment object in the horizontal plane can be selected from the properties window. You can also require at least 3 support points and no limit on the maximum and can be defined in horizontal plane in 2D or 3D view. So user can alter the support points by simply dragging them. By default, the center of gravity of equipment objects and support points coincide with each other. So user can specify non-zero values for offset and move equipment objects which facilitates adjustments of equipment loads on a structure. Equipment object can be replaced in a such way that each defined points is supported by a structural item or slab item. So no member, ancillary, slab, wall, or any equipment object may be attached to equipment object. So equipment object is shown as a 3D object with relevant 3D shape, its center of gravity visible on the loading area, and the vertical position relative to loading area. So user can switch on off display in the same content with each object type. Equipment objects are available in structure tree under loading elements group. So each equipment object has 3 default gravity load cases: the empty load, operating load content, and testing content load. So this load can be defined by the user by the default 0 kilonewton. So this load can be applied either at the center of gravity of the equipment object or at the support points at the choice of user. So this is important when center of gravity is different for the loaded and unloaded conditions. So user can apply additional point loads as dead or imposed in horizontal or vertical direction with a new structure load equipment present in the structure loads group. So dedicated equipment load cases are added and removed as the load are added or deleted, just to aid combination building for industrial design. So a setting is present in the model setting where the equipment load for operating and testing can be set to either dead or imposed load cases. So the equipment object acts as a rigid loading area supported by each defined equipment support points. So for each equipment object, the load distribution distributes the total load proportionately to the equipment support points based on the iterative decomposition approach. So if the center of gravity loading option is used, decomposition is in stages from equipment object to equipment support points and then into the structure. But note that the distribution of point loads applied to a rigid plate is a very complex problem to solve. If done by finite element, then results are determined by stiffness of the plate. So iterative approach is approximate but believed to be sufficiently accurate for the purpose. So if the approach is not accepted by the users, then the use of the defined point loads applied to support can also be used. So load associated with or applied to equipment objects are decomposed and applied at the support points. The equipment object itself does not form any of part of the analysis model. Only its load take part in the analysis. It is accounted in the design through the load in the various equipment load cases. So in this phase, there is no beam associated with equipment objects. So let's see, it may come in the future development. Nothing is impossible with Tekla. So we as engineer believe that this enhancement will be very helpful to you. So if there are questions in your mind right now, don't be shy to type in the chat box. We will address all of your questions after the presentation. So next enhancement is the fireproofing. Fire protection can now be specified in the analysis and design model by the user. So fireproofing is the application of the fire-resistant material on the surface of the structural members in the form of protective paints, thin or thick film coating, sprays, and fireboards. So Tekla Structural Designer gives the facility to apply a surface coat to a member defined by the thickness and density. Useful for open structure wind load where wind load is acting on large surface of the member. So fireproofing is applicable for all head codes available in Tekla Structural Designer. Fire protection property is considered in the loading and analysis and applicable for all one members irrespective of their characteristics except for analysis elements, delta beam, and fabsec beam. Note that although user gets facility to fire protect any member they want, it is not expected that fireproofing can be applied on concrete members but applicable to enclosed member which will be influential to the open structure wind loading. So how to apply the fireproofing? So fireproofing can be applied to member by setting the protected option to yes through property windows, member properties, and show alter state. So there are two exposure conditions. The options can be exposed on three sides, which applicable for beams, and exposed on all sides. So for fire protection, material details, shapes can be contour or hollow encasement. The thickness and density and self-weight is also can be manually input by the user. So the load will be changed if the thickness or density, exposure condition, shape, member size, or perimeter is changed. So beyond the introduction of additional self-weight, the presence of fireproofing has no other impact on the analysis and or design. So at this stage, fireproofing is not yet added to the beam transfer. So this feature is useful for industrial structural design where fireproofing is a common practice here in our country. So next feature is the new added feature for Tekla Structural Designer which have the ability to add wind impact for open structure. So no requirement to cloth the building in wall and roof panels. It can be generated on structural members, line, and area ancillaries and equipment can also be used in conjunction with walls and roof panels. So there are some assumptions and limitations for open structure wind load. So the assumptions that all all winds are assumed to act perpendicular to the members, equipment, and ancillaries, and applicable for all 1D structural member irrespective of their characteristics, except for the analysis element, the delta beam, and the fabsec beam. And the limitations are applicable only for US, EC, and IS wind codes for this 2021 release and cannot be applied on structural walls. Shielding effect is not considered, and there are no frictional wind forces accounted on any surfaces. How to apply the open structure wind load? So for the open structure wind load, it can be applied by selecting the option Apply Open Structure Wind Load through Property Windows and Show Alter State. It is for the structural members, ancillaries, and equipment. And if for member properties, it is only for structural members. So open structure wind load is default if on for the ancillaries and equipment and then off for structural members. So open structure wind load can be applied on members either by span or by stack basis. So you have to select the members on which open structure wind load needs to be applied and then run the wind wizard and select the option apply open structure wind load. Next is step through the wind wizard to generate wind pressure, generate the wind load cases from the wind load, and run the analysis for the desired wind load cases. So for the members and ancillaries, wind force is determined as the full length uniform distributed load, one acting in the local Y and one acting in the local Z, on the member based on the full uniform distributed load, major and minor. So for the equipment, the wind force is determined as a single point load acting on the piece of the equipment based on the forces of the wind, X and Y direction, and this force is assumed to be applied to the center of gravity of the equipment at mid-height. Note that all wind forces considered are horizontal, no vertical loading is considered. So the shape factor, which is very effective area factors for ancillaries, can be overridden by the user. So present in the settings and the model settings under the wind loading, the default shape factors came from the document Wind Loads for Petrochemical and Other Industrial Facilities published by ASCE. Loads generated through open structure wind load are applied to the relevant members or items in the relevant wind load cases for the wind direction being considered. All, all full uniform distributed loads relating to open structure wind load can be directly applied to the members, line and area ancillaries, or forces applied to equipment are decomposed as any other loads in Tekla Structural Designer. So members, ancillaries, equipment objects subjected to open structure wind load are visible in wind view with active status. Selecting wind direction for a wind load cases and hovering cursor over an item gives quick information of wind loading in select entity tooltip, which include shape factor, wind pressure, and wind force. Decomposed open structure wind loads are displayed in the structural or results view. User needs to switch on the loading text in the same content to display the loading values of decomposed wind loads. So all open structure wind loads are included in the analysis and design of all members via wind load combinations via wind load cases. So this is the sample of the report for open structure wind load inside TSD. So for this release, nothing is also additional considered for beam transfer. So for open structure wind load, these are the benefits that you can have using the Tekla Structural Designer 2021 versions. So we came up to our last agenda, the reinforcement integration. Okay. So new with Tekla Structural Designer 2021 version is now an effortless and straightforward workflow for rebar. So in a successful design of CIP within TSD, design intent rebar can be integrated into Tekla structures. So as can be seen from the icons at the bottom of the screen, the status view shown the model has already been successfully designed, and the slab has also been designed so the rebar indicating the design intent can now be integrated with Tekla structures. So with Tekla Beam workflow for rebar, there are no requirements to generate any external file. Our quick and easy to use process allow user to directly use the engineering design model. So this uncomplicated process ensures that the latest design results and rebar intent will always be available to avoid design errors and changes. So the integration process is quick and uncomplicated. The model parts are created and the rebar generated accurately and speedy. So rebar is generated in beam elements to suit the design intent of the Tekla structural designer model. Rebar is also generated in column parts to suit the design intent of the Tekla structural designer model. Rebar is generated in balls to suit the design intent of the Tekla structural designer model. The reinforcement included localized slab patch reinforcement, which is integrated into the Tekla structures model. Foundation reinforcement is also integrated into Tekla structures model, and reinforcement is created using rebar sets and property modifiers, allowing the user to full optimization of returns, layers, and laps. So as well as the importing rebar of the entire model, the options provided allow the full versatility for integration. So you can import a single rebar sets or per design group, and then allow rebars to be imported for specific object part types. And then further versatility is provided in allowing rebar to be imported as reference mode. And then changes made to the design of the structure are automatically updated within TS and the rebar recreated to suit the new design intent. So this is the Tekla beam workflow for rebar. So for further information regarding the rebar link, let me give you more detailed information. So Tekla Structural Designer is a design product which does not attempt to create a fully detailed reinforced concrete model. So the vision is just to transfer the design intent of the model to facilitate the detailing process. In the previous releases, we created simplified individual bars and group of bars, but now we are using rebar sets throughout. The result is that the rebar detailers will be able to work faster with fewer limitations. So in Tekla Structures 2020 version features, the slab patch rebar and the slab patch rebar can be transferred in the previous version. But for the Tekla Structures 2021 version features, the foundation, the beams, the columns, and the wall can now transfer the design intent of the rebar. So for the rebar transfer only works if both Tekla Structure and Tekla Structural Designer are installed on the same PCs and uses the Tekla Structural Designer model file, which is .tsmd. So the old two-part process of exporting a file by CXL in one product and importing it into the other works for all combinations of versions, but the rebar is not transferred. So for from pad base to pad footings, not generic slab is as in the old transfer. Transfer of top and bottom reinforcement is defined and end detail modifiers are used to create hooks. So from strip bases to strip footings, not generic slab as in the old transfer, transfer of top and bottom reinforcement if needed, if defined, sorry. So end and detail modifiers are used to create hooks. So for the foundation mat, it is still defined as the generic slab, the transfer of top and bottom reinforcement if defined, and hooks are not yet created. So for the beam, So for longitudinal rebars of the beam, in this example, there are three rebar sets for bottom reinforcement in the continuous beam due to the different numbers of bar. However, one of the rebar sets is defined across the both span. So this is the closer look of the longitudinal rebar in Tekla Structural Designer. So user can use rebar splitters and end detail modifiers to model lumps, cranks, staggers, and hooks of the longitudinal rebars. Property modifiers can be used to model different diameters within a rebar sets. So different types of stirrups can be transferred. It can be torsion, open, single leg, and closed leg. So the left, center, and right regions are modeled as spacing zones in Tekla structures. Note that the zone length corresponds to the TSD drawings, not the design ratios. So next is for column. So in this example, there is a single rebar sets for the principal or intermediate reinforcement, handling the starter bars, lower and upper stock for the longitudinal rebars in column. The longitudinal rebar of column by using rebar splitters and end detail modifiers to model the lumps, cranks, staggers, and hook of the longitudinal rebars. The property modifiers are used to model different diameters within the rebar sets, and then separate rebar sets are created for each stacks of columns. Different types of single leg links are also transferred. Cross links can be created for square columns. And then for walls, the longitudinal rebar of walls in this example, there is a single rebar sets for each layer of longitudinal reinforcement, handling the starter bars, lower and upper panel. The longitudinal rebar of wall using rebar splitters and end detail modifiers to model the lamps, cranks, staggers, and hooks. There is also the property modifiers that can be used to model the different diameters within a rebar sets. And then for the horizontal bars of walls with two layers and end zones are not used, horizontal bars form loops using splitters. Separate rebar sets are created for each panel of walls. So like columns, different types of single leg links are transferred. Closed links are created in end zones. Note that the separate rebar sets are created for the longitudinal bars in end zones. So there are separate rebar sets for each panel of walls. And then the stirrups of wall, the support, and the span regions are modeled as a spacing zone. Note that the zone length corresponds to the TSD drawings, not the design ratios. So as of now, the limitation of this enhancement are two. The subscription configuration must be diamond, and the option for poor management must be true. So if this is not set, the option must be changed, then save the model, and then reopen the Tekla structure. This option should be true by default in the target environments for the relevant roles or configurations. So the separate objects for each stack, each span, each panel, and the design setting of concrete column and wall must be checked in the model settings of Tekla Structural Designer. So of course, reinforcement integration has benefits while using this enhancement in TSD. So here it is. We hope that all contractors who are using Tekla Structural Designer and Tekla Structures helps you with this enhancement to all of your projects. And to those who are not yet using Tekla Structural Designer and Tekla Structures, maybe this is the right time to start to use this kind of softwares. Remember that the world is changing, challenging, and even more complicated. So don't be scared to be different. Maybe being different makes our world better. So that's all, guys. We hope you learned something new with us. It's time for Q&A. Sir Chris.
All right, thank you very much, Dean, and that's a very good presentation, I think. So we're open for some questions, and I think I already have responded to some of your questions, guys. So let me just go over if there's additional question. Okay, Sir Jeffrey, what are the advantages of the Tekla from other software? Actually, sure, there's a list of advantages, but what having seen it used in the market over time, what we can say is the best advantage is the very user friendly interface that it has. We are able to save engineers a lot of time in the preparation of their drawings, especially for the structural requirements. So it saves them 30-50% of the time that they are doing it with their previous methods. No, so very easy to use, and basically the software, all the softwares out there could give you the output that you want, but the contest now is how fast we can deliver with the softwares or with the tools that we have, and that's what we uh, think is the greatest advantage of Tekla Structural Designer. And for Sir Arnel, based on your info, Sir,
Lamanov ko ng
Tekla is
flash
still
drive.
back.
Gamay. Bebe.
I mean,
Ate
Mrs.
ko.
Sir, do you offer a comprehensive webinar? We do provide trainings, sir, for our users. But in case you want to learn, just learn the software, probably we could arrange training that will be handled by our marketing and training team. So you could just simply send us an inquiry for the training. But we do provide trainings for all the softwares that we have. Now, for Sir Ryan, does TSD accommodate wing parameters for wind load in NSCP 2015? I think the answer to that, sir, is yes, because our NSCP is based on ASCE 7. So Tekla Structural Designer has those codes in it. See ASCB 7 from the 2010 up to the 2016 issue of ASCE 7, where our NSCP 2015 is basically referenced. No? Sir Arnel, RC design in Tekla uses finite. Yes, sir. We do have a finite element analysis inside Tekla Structural Designer. Basically, the method of load transfer or the decomposition of loads are done through finite element analysis. Right. I think we pretty much covered the questions. So in case we missed or you still have, you can voice out your questions or you could type it in. We still have few minutes left for this 1 hour allotment. But can this be used in designing overhead cranes? For overhead cranes, sir, I think you need to, what we do inside Tekla Structural Designer are assign various point loads or moving loads kasi not directly covered eh. But there's a workaround in addressing the overhead cranes. It's simply a matter of assigning various point loads on the member. So yun, not directly for the design of overhead cranes, but there's a workaround just like with other softwares. So I'll be posting a link if our presentation got you interested on this chat box. Let me just copy the link. So here's a link. How about pre-stressed concrete design in TSD? Did we have that? I think previously we have this button inside TSD that we can assign members as pre-stressed. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
add to that,
There
Dean?
is a button for the properties window for per member in the
Yeah,
Priestess Concrete design.
yeah. So we can assign members as pre-stressed and then do the analysis, right? Ayun. So I posted the link on the chat page, and you could simply click on the link if you're interested to test out Tekla Structural Designer. Then you can simply go to that link, download the 45-day trial, so that you can use the Tekla Structural Designer and TEDS at the same time, and start creating projects and practicing modeling, 3D modeling there, doing analysis and design. So you could do pretty much everything in the trial version if you follow that particular link. And then your details will be registered to Trimble. So perhaps if you'll be needing assistance in the course of this 45-day trial, then you could simply send us a message. You can tell Chris, can we do half day sit down tutorial with, then probably we could arrange that. So that's it. Precast analysis and design is possible in Tekla, sir. Yes, sir. We do have precast as well inside, but it was just not covered in this presentation as we're focused on the industrial. But for concrete, we do cast in place and precast analysis and design inside Tekla Structural Designer. All right. Is there an interface with TSD and TEDS? Yes, sir, Jeffrey. The integration is very smooth. Wherein after running the analysis and design in TSD, and you want to produce a member output in TEDS with a professional calculation, you can pretty much do that with their integration. So there's a very smooth integration between TSD and TEDS already. In fact, TEDS can handle the some 3D objects already from Tekla Structural Designer. Can we use the software in seismic analysis? Definitely, sir. That's what is it intended for. You could do lateral, the same as the wind and seismic. So we could do that. You're welcome, Sir Jeffrey. All right. So, any more questions from our audience before we end this? So, we're flashing our contact information. You could save our number, give us a call, send us an email, and we will definitely respond as soon as we see them and acknowledge your messages. So I think that would be all for today. You could follow our social media accounts. We have a Facebook, an Instagram, and a YouTube page, just like everybody else. You're welcome, Sir Anel. So that would be all from our end. And thank you very much, guys, for spending this hour with us. We hope that our presentation got you interested to look further into our solution, download the trial, let us know how we can help you with Tekla Structural Designer. Thank you very much and have a good day. Keep safe.
It's safe.
Mask on.
Thank you.